On this week's episode of Ride the Lightning, the Tesla unofficial podcast, what better way to celebrate episode 200 than an interview with Elon Musk himself? Yes, it actually happened. Elon and I discussed Tesla's past, present, and future, covering a whole lot of topics in this 1-hour conversation. I hope you enjoy it. So I'm here at Tesla in Palo Alto at their corporate headquarters with the one and only Elon Musk. Elon, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, you're welcome.
So I've got so much to ask you. I know I don't have all day. I've always wanted to know the Model S. It's when in the process of the Model S did you know that you had something special? Was it on paper, you just knew, or was it not till it got out into the world, into customers' hands, or somewhere in between?
Sure. And I apologize if it takes me a moment to kind of get into things because by the end of the day, my mind is like loaded up with so much stuff.
I understand.
It takes like just a moment to kind of like unload. So I guess when we unveiled it, the Model S we designed in the corner of the rocket factory. So we didn't have a design studio at the time, and I tried various outside design houses and nothing good came of that. So I was fortunate enough to encounter Franz von Holzhausen, just a referral from a friend. And Franz came to the opening of the first Tesla store, the one in LA.
Yeah.
And we had like quite a good party, I think, at the opening. And Franz thought it was a good vibe. And he and I got along really well. So he decided to leave Mazda and join Tesla, which was a very risky move at the time.
Oh, at the time, sure. He was in Mazda, doing quite well for himself, I'm sure.
Yeah. So then we literally just put a tent in the far corner of the rocket factory, the SpaceX rocket factory, and put together a small crew and started sculpting the Model S. And the requirements were pretty extreme because we wanted it to be something special. So we wanted something that had more cargo space than any other sedan.
Right.
That could seat 5 adults and 2 kids, because I have 5 kids. So kind of wanted
executive privilege there.
Yeah, I wanted to be able to carry 7 people plus luggage in the front. So we had the front trunk. And then to have great performance, so great handling, great acceleration, and just a beautiful silhouette, long range. So we wanted to be at least 250 miles, and we ended up being a little
265, as I remember. Yeah,
exactly. Wow, yeah, that's right. Exactly.
When you do a podcast about your company every week, you soak up all the information.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
so when did you? So you knew right away that this was going to work and this was going to be something transformative.
Oh no, I didn't know it would work. I didn't know it would work. I just designed what I thought would be the perfect car for me, actually.
Yeah.
And I think this is generally a good approach to if you're going to design something and create a product. It's very difficult to infer what others would love, but you know what you love. And so if you make something that you love, and then hopefully you're not unique in the world, then others will like it too.
Yeah.
We're going through the same thing. We went through the same thing with the Model X and the Model 3 and Y, and now the pickup truck is, first with the pickup truck, we were like, that was just like showing basically just different versions, very similar versions to pickup trucks that already exist. And I was like, guys, do you love this? Like, no, actually you don't love it. But we think truck buyers might. I'm like, that doesn't work that way. You just can't build a product that you actually might fall in love with by trying to imagine what somebody else would love. That doesn't work.
Right.
So with Model S and with Roadster, I did most of the design work personally for the original Roadster.
Wow.
I got a design award from a couple of design awards actually. I got an honorary PhD from Pasadena School of Art, the art school. So from that, but it's actually relatively easy to design a sports car. It's hard to design a sedan that looks good. A sports car, the natural dimensions are quite, they're sort of like model dimensions.
Yeah, and you don't need to be practical really in a sports car.
You don't need to be practical.
Yeah.
No. You can be long and low, and that just makes it look good automatically.
Yeah.
And sleek lines, and you don't have to have lots of cargo space and that kind of thing. It's hard to design a good sedan. And I tried at first, but I did not succeed. And then that's why I decided to ask Franz to join Tesla, and then the two of us worked on this. But it was just really trying to make something that I was sure that I would love.
Yeah.
And then hopefully others would love it too.
Could you have foreseen the impact that the Model S was going to have on the world from the Motor Trend Car of the Year award on down to the influence it's had?
I was actually always like fairly pessimistic about the outcome of Tesla all the way from the beginning. I thought that right from the beginning, when it was just like basically sort of kind of five of us, like I thought, maybe 10% chance of success.
Yeah.
And we came very close to failing many times. So I never really thought before it actually happened that it would be that successful.
Was there a moment where you just started seeing them on the road every day on your commute where you thought, I think we did this?
Yeah, I saw that with the Roadster, original Roadster, and then with the Model S. Well, the original Roadster was pretty rare.
Yeah.
The Model S, it was quite trippy to see someone in a Model S who was not, I didn't know. That means they actually bought the car and I didn't know who they are.
Yeah, I guess if I put myself in your shoes, that totally makes sense.
Yeah, it's a great honor that somebody would part with their hard-earned money to buy our car instead of some other car.
What do you think when you see Model 3s out now? Because around the Bay Area and certainly LA, where you spend the bulk of your time in those two places, they're extraordinarily common. You can really throw a rock in traffic and hit one. So do you feel like we've done it, or do you think they're not all Teslas, I'm not done yet?
It's a pretty small percentage of the cars on the road in California that are Teslas, even in the Bay Area and LA. Number
2 selling car in California, though.
Of new
April.
Cars, yes.
Yes. So it's progress.
Is that the Model 3?
The 3, yeah.
Probably number 1 by dollar volume.
It was.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. That's cool. But for every new car that's bought, there's something on the order of 15 older cars. So even if we had 100% of all cars sold, it would take 15 years to replace the fleet.
Right.
And really 20 years if you go beyond the U.S. So average life of a car is about 20 years. Actually, I think there's just a shocking number of cars that are not Teslas, even in our hometown. So there's clearly a lot of opportunity.
Well, to that point, you open sourced the patents. You wanted people to follow you in your footsteps. You said when you won the Motor Trend Car of the Year award, I hope they copy us. And so I have a theory that I'm wondering if you can either speak to or shoot down. This is totally my own personal theory. Ludicrous mode came pretty quickly after insane mode from the P85D. Then you went just a few months later, the P90D with Ludicrous came around. You guys are, of course, known for not waiting for product model years, which is great. But my theory is that Ludicrous mode came about because you saw that nobody was following in your footsteps and building electric cars, so you thought, you know what? I'm going to shame them into building electric cars by outperforming all of them. Is there anything to that, or am I crazy on that?
I mean, Ludicrous mode just comes from Spaceballs.
Well, sure, but the actual performance of the car, not the naming convention.
We kind of discovered that, particularly with dual motor, and like pushing the envelope on the power electronics. And then having kind of like a launch mode where you kind of wind up the half shafts and everything.
Yeah.
That you put all these things together and you can go a lot faster. So then I'm like, okay, we already have insane mode. So what are we going to do beyond that? I guess ludicrous. And then the only thing, of course, beyond ludicrous is plaid.
Can't wait for that.
Plaid mode. But no, we definitely want to show that an electric car could be the best kind of car that could outperform a gasoline car. So, and I think these days, like people they don't remember just how foolish it seemed to make an electric car, and we were just relentlessly denigrated, and said that we're obviously going to fail, and the fact that we're doing an electric car was just like stupidity squared.
Right.
And if gasoline cars are just going to go on forever, basically, and then if it's not gasoline cars, it's going to be fuel cell cars, and that GM and Toyota had tried electric cars and they'd failed, and how could we succeed when they'd failed? I mean, it was just like relentless negativity. It was just negativity continues, of course, but. Now that there's like lots of electric cars, people don't realize that this was not the case at all back in 2008 when we went into production with the Roadster, or certainly in 2012 when we went into production with the Model S. But really, what we found is that with at first people said it was impossible to make a long range high performance electric car. It's just like physically impossible. We're like, but it's obviously, you do the physics, do the math, and it's clearly possible. But then they said if we made it, nobody would buy it because they just want gasoline cars. So we made the Roadster, then we sold the Roadster at around 500 or 600 cars a year, which is like small, niche product, but clearly, people did want the car. And then they said then the argument against going electric was, sure, you can make a toy electric sports car. Everyone knows that. I'm like, you didn't say that last time, but you definitely couldn't make a real car. Like what about like a premium sedan like a Mercedes or a BMW or an Audi? Like there's no way you can make a car like that electric. It's way bigger. You have to have all these features and functionality. It's going to be incredibly safe. So then said, okay, well, we'll make that kind of car, and that will convince the industry. If we make the Model S the best sedan.
Yeah.
And
you did, and they've still been slow to follow. How do you feel about the industry's progress on electrification now, here, 2019?
No, I mean, there's clearly a lot of momentum at this point, particularly in China. I mean, China's making half of all electric cars in the world.
Yeah.
It's hard for us to compete in China. So like our sales in China have always been relatively small, like disproportionately small to the market compared to the market, because we have always had to pay import duties,
right.
And they've been very significant at times, up to 40%. And then we never had access to any of the tax incentives that the local companies had. So we had a huge financial disadvantage.
Right. And now you're fixing all that as we speak?
Yeah, with locally produced cars, we should be on something close to a level playing field. So there's pretty good output of electric cars these days. I'm not sure what the global is. It like an annualized rate of a million or something like that, maybe a little more.
Sounds about right. Not enough.
Yeah, it's about 1% of cars produced, maybe 1.5%. But the trend is very much in the direction of electric.
So you're more optimistic now than you were, a few years ago when you open sourced the patents and not much came of it.
Yes, it really seems like there's a lot of momentum towards electric, and there are a number of countries have said that they're going to ban combustion engine cars at some point in the future.
Yeah,
like
2040 or so, right?
Yeah, I mean, some of them I think are maybe as soon as 2025 or 2030. And it's certainly going to make it harder to sell gasoline cars as that deadline approaches. So I think, like from a financial standpoint, if for consumers that are looking towards the future, there's clearly a strong social movement in every country, or almost every country, I think, towards sustainability. And I think from a residual value standpoint, an electric car is likely to be a much smarter financial decision than a gasoline car.
Yeah, Tesla network, you've talked about that at length. Yeah. Actually, I did want to talk about the Model 3. I mean, that's what I have. That's what I've been following the company myself since the Roadster days. And the Model 3 was...
Since 2006 or since...
Well, since it hit the market.
Okay.
2009.
2008 or 2009,
yeah. It was was my first sort of up-close and personal experience with the Roadster and the original Menlo Park showroom location. And that's a whole other story that we can get to another time. But, I waited for Model 3, and my time finally came, and I've had mine for 10 months, and it's, along with our home and LASIK eye surgery, it's literally the best thing I've ever spent money on.
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
It really, truly is. And so I'm curious, what was the toughest design choice you had to make on Model 3? You had your price objective, but your other goals and mass producing this thing. So what design choice? I'm sort of curious what sticks out for you as a tough thing you had to either say yes or no to.
From a design standpoint, I don't think there was a really big binary decision. I mean, maybe going from 2 screens to 1 screen.
Yeah.
Not having a screen in front of the steering wheel. There was like a lot of debate of like, well, is there enough screen real estate? Like maybe people really want that sort of cockpit feel. So there was like, I got a fair bit of pushback on going from 2 to 1 screen. But I think, my opinion was like, I think people prefer having like an open view of the road and just having more visibility, and we can fit it all in 1 screen. And then we can always use the phone as kind of a backup interface. Right. So that was a binary decision, that may be one of the bigger ones. It was hard to make the Model 3 look good. That was not easy. There were a lot of nuances around the body shape, especially the nose.
For aerodynamic purposes?
No, just for aesthetics.
Yeah. Well, I noticed, it seemed like, correct me if I'm wrong, the nose softened up a bit from the alpha prototypes that we saw at the reveal to production. Was that the case?
Yeah, it's tough to, for an electric car, if you don't have a big grille in the front, you don't want to have the nose look like Voldemort. Like you just got nothing there.
Yeah.
Or sort of blunt nose. Just doesn't look good. So you've got to put some lines. You've got to get some character, or it just does not look good. It's very difficult. And then in doing so, not affect the aerodynamics in a significantly bad way. So, we switched from Model S having air inlets and heat exchangers on either side to having one sort of central one. And then with the width, we changed from 195 centimeters to 185 centimeters from S to 3.
Right.
Went down by 10 centimeters, which was actually a design decision driven by Japan, because the parking machines in Japan go from 185 centimeters to 195 centimeters.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and we initially made the mistake of certifying the Model S as 196 centimeters because we wanted to just go on the side of being too big.
Sure.
It was actually technically 195.4 or something like that. And then they wouldn't put in any of the parking machines in Japan. So we were like, so it was hard to sell cars in Japan. So this time we'll make sure the width it fits in even the smallest parking machine. So 185 centimeters does that. But then you have less width. You've got to get everything. You're still going to make it roomy on the inside. You want the car always to feel roomier on the inside than it looks on the outside.
Right, and you smartly did that by pushing the firewall forward, pushing the cabin forward. And
yes, exactly.
It's incredible. It feels there's tons of room in the back seat or the front.
And then going to an all glass, the glass roof.
Yeah.
Really helps with the headroom.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and so it gives us incredible perspective of the stars and the sky, and but also gives you headroom.
Yeah, I tell my 7-year-old daughter she's actually got the best view in the whole car. Not me. She's got it. Clear up a Tesla urban myth for me on the Model 3. Was there ever a heads-up display for that car? Back you talk about the single display, and the chatter was people try. Well, there's going to be a HUD. There's got to be something there.
No, there was.
No.
We discussed it, but I have tried various heads-up displays, and I just find that they're pretty annoying.
Yeah.
We felt the car would increasingly go towards self-driving, and then you wouldn't really care about having stuff displayed in the windscreen. So, as things are approaching autonomy, why project things you don't even care about on the screen?
Well, how about on the new Roadster? You've talked about sort of an Iron Man type of some sort of interface between the driver and the car.
And we'll just jack in with a neural link. We'll just,
cars due out in a year, 2 years?
Mind meld with the car.
What is the status of the new Roadster project?
Connection.
You've displayed the new Roadster at a couple of your the Autonomy Day and a couple of things, but you've conspicuously you've not mentioned it when sort of talking about the roadmap for the next couple of years. What is going on with the new Roadster?
The new Roadster is kind of dessert. It's not, do we really need the new Roadster to accelerate our progress towards autonomy or towards electrification and sustainability?
Certainly not.
No, not really. I mean, this is not going to, how many of these things are really going to produce and sell?
I was going to ask you that very thing, actually. What do you think? How many of those do you think you'll make a year?
I mean, I don't know, but it's probably not more than 10,000.
Yeah.
So it does have some value, and it's like if this can really outperform, say, the best Ferrari or Lamborghini or
McLaren,
on every dimension,
even on the track.
Yes, on every level.
Yeah.
Then that would finally erase any halo effect that exists for gasoline cars.
Yeah.
So the new Roadster would be is designed to outdo by a long shot the best gasoline car.
The hardcore smackdown, as you famously put it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like crushingly good relative to the next best gasoline sports car.
What's in the Founders series for that extra $50K over the base model?
I can't say.
Fair enough.
But it'll be cool. I mean, we're gonna do some things with the new Roadster that are kind of unfair to other cars.
Well, the SpaceX package, I assume, is one of the things you're mentioning.
If you put cold grass thrusters in the car, I mean, you can just go in any direction.
10 of them around the car, right? You've said, I think.
I mean, if you have, say, 3 Gs of thrust, you can go in any direction. You can go up and still accelerate upward at 2 Gs.
Yeah. Is that, I don't know, is that a good idea?
I mean, it's not the safest thing in the world. Sounds like fun.
What is that option package going to set me back?
I don't know. I mean, we haven't figured out exact pricing, but this is really just taking the SpaceX cold gas thrusters and sticking them in a car.
Yeah. Because you can.
Yeah, we already have them, so it's not like we know they work. We use them in the rocket.
How do you manage to keep the Roadster a secret? It seemed like you shocked everybody by pulling out of the back of that semi truck.
We got we leased a really nondescript building near our design studio and did all the work in the separate building.
Nice.
Yeah. So nobody knew this building even existed.
I heard you have like a skunk works thing in this building somewhere where you guys are all working on all kinds of fun new stuff.
Well, there's a whole basement full of test equipment that we try out different powertrains mostly in this building.
Nice.
Yeah. So I think we're pretty excited. There's like a lot of exciting technology coming down the pike. But I mean, our primary focus right now is just making sure that Tesla is in a good financial condition, that we're producing at high rate for the Model 3 especially, getting the cars delivered, improving manufacturing efficiency, output, staying on track with the Shanghai Gigafactory and the Model Y. The Model Y is going back to my point of the Model Y it's much roomier inside than it appears on the outside.
Yes, I found that. I got to attend the event and get a test ride.
You were in it,
yes, and I found the exact same thing.
Yeah, a lot of people think it looks not that much bigger than a Model 3. It's intended to not look big, but it's actually, like, I think the mark of a good design is, for a vehicle, is that it feels much bigger on the inside than it looks on the outside. Yeah.
In fact, on that very note, with the design of the Model Y, it's very close in sort of general appearance to the 3. Were you tempted to be more aggressive with its styling, or was the idea of sort of staying a little more conservative with it, knowing that the 3 is a success and it works, was that a design exercise that sort of playing it conservative a design exercise in itself.
Well, going from the S to the X, we made so many changes. It was the S to the X, Model X to the Model X, Model S to the Model X was intended to have a lot of carryover, but we put so much new technology. And the amount of hubris we put into the Model X was really astounding. The car is made of hubris.
Right, you've called it the Fabergé egg many times. As impressive as it is,
it's nutty. I mean, we even developed a sonar that could see through metal,
right,
that the military doesn't have. So that's crazy, and that was just so that we could avoid having a puck
a visible
puck in the door. We developed sonar that could see through metal. That's insane. We should not have done that.
You do also seem, the Y aside, you seem to be on a never-ending quest to find the coolest unconventional door handle in history. All the cars outside the 3 and the Y have their own cool way of getting in.
We put a lot of effort into that Model S door handle. I love it.
It's great.
Yeah.
Even I saw at the Autonomy Day, somebody posted a video of the Roadster. I guess probably your phone key or key card, key fob on you, and then you swipe on the B-pillar.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, I think like the Model X has the coolest doors. Like
self-presenting.
Yeah, exactly. People know about the Falcon wing doors, the doors that sort of open up like wings. And by the way, those doors actually have a different opening arc depending upon what's around them.
Right.
So if there's nothing around them, we optimize the opening arc to be as beautiful as possible, for the actual movement to be as balletic as possible. And it'll only veer from the most beautiful movement if there's something close by, in which case it will change its movement arc to avoid the obstacle. It's insane. That door is insane. But the door that actually will be is the most that you will notice the most on a day-to-day basis is the front doors, where the car actually triangulates the Bluetooth signal from the key fob.
Right.
Detects if you're walking towards.
I've seen it in action.
Yes, exactly. Like most people don't realize this exists, but all doors on the Model X are automatic. So the front door. It's actually doing radio triangulation on the Bluetooth receiver on your key, and calculating that you're walking towards the car in a way that suggests intent to enter, as opposed to parallel to the car,
walking by
or orthogonal to the car. So it won't open the door if you walk parallel to the car. It won't open the door if you walk to the trunk or to the hood. It'll only open the door if you walk to where you'd want to enter the car.
Awesome.
And it'll open the door just before you get there, and then you sit down. You never touch the door. You tap the brake pedal to start the car, and the door closes.
Yeah, I've seen it, and I've talked to a number of S or 3 owners who miss that when they're not in their Model X.
Once you start using it, it's like then it feels weird that you have to open and close the door, and so people after using an X for a while will get in a normal car and sit there and not close the door because they expect their car to close its own door.
I wanted to ask you, go back to the Model Y. What is the biggest lesson learned from the Model 3 program that you're applying to the Y? Either from a design perspective or, I presume, a manufacturing one?
We tried not to go. So the reason I mentioned the S and the X is that the X was ended up being a radical departure from the S. Yeah. And the only things that were in common were the drive units and the battery pack, really, and the center display. Like, there's really everything else changed. We have that sort of helicopter cockpit windscreen in the front.
Yeah.
The doors we talked about. The rear seats were insanely difficult to do to hide the tracks in the floor, so that when you open the Falcon wing doors and you look across, you see an absolutely clean silhouette with a monopost seat.
Yeah.
There's nothing like it. I think probably 6 people in the world even noticed that, frankly. But it was insanely difficult to do. With Model Y, we wanted to avoid the technology bandwagon that we had with the X, where it should have been easy going from S to X, and instead it was hell because there were so many new technologies.
Right.
And we didn't want that to be the case, and it would be too risky for the company to do that with the Y. So we've tried to make the car as similar to the 3 as possible, except to the degree that a change is necessary to achieve SUV functionality.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to sit 7 people and have a higher ride height, more cargo capacity, while still having a low drag coefficient and not increasing the frontal area too much, and so that the range. So basically, CDA, drag coefficient times frontal area, and mass are close enough to the 3 that the range is only affected by, let's say,
the weight,
8 to 10% or something like that. Yeah. The CDA is worse with the Y because the cross-sectional area is higher.
Right, makes sense.
Bigger. So there are some manufacturing improvements for the Y. The rear underbody, we're moving to an aluminum casting instead of a series of stamped steel and aluminum pieces. But it drops from initially it will be 2 castings, and it'll go from 70 parts to 2, and then 70 parts to 2 plus joiners, so
wow.
4. And then it'll go, when we get the big casting machine, it'll go from 70 parts to 1.
Wow.
With a reduction in weight and an improvement in MBH, and a reduction in cost, and a significant drop in the capital expenditure required for all the robots that would otherwise be necessary to put those 70 parts together.
How is the Y project going?
It's going great. Yeah.
Are you happy with
smooth sailing?
Are you happy with the sort of reaction to its reveal a few months ago?
Yeah, I mean, I intentionally didn't go all out with the Model Y reveal because I didn't want to convince people to buy a Y instead of a 3.
Yeah.
So, if everyone just decided, okay, we'll just buy a Y instead of a 3, then we wouldn't have any customers, and there would never be a Y,
right.
Because nobody, how would we float? We wouldn't be able to float the company. So, so I was kind of like medium in presenting the Y. But I think when people get it, the reaction will be better than they think. So, and it's really just like if you want an SUV and are prepared to accept a slight cost increase and a slight range decrease, then that's great. The advantage of a sedan is it's going to cost a little bit less and it'll have a little more range.
Right.
And so it just kind of depends on whether you want a sedan or want an SUV.
What's been your thought process on where to build it? Because the last couple of earnings calls, you seemed, you didn't make any guarantees, but you seemed to say, well, I think we're probably going to look at building this at the Gigafactory. And then on the last conference call, the last earnings call, you said you were maybe leaning more towards finding some room in Fremont to do it. So is there sort of just curious sort of your thought process. I'm sure there are pluses and minuses to doing it in either location.
Yeah, we could do it in either location. The long lead items for Model Y are mostly the tools for stamping. So like the body side outer tools are the long lead items. So there's whether we put it in Fremont or in Nevada at Gigas, we have more time to decide that versus the amount of time it takes to machine these giant stamping tools.
Right.
That's the gating factor on timing. And right now, our default plan actually is to produce the Y at Fremont. And I was skeptical about whether this made sense at first, but my team convinced me that this is actually the fastest way to get to volume production is to do the Y at Fremont.
I guess especially when you're sharing 75% of the parts, it makes sense to have them all under one roof.
Yes. There's some pros to doing it at Giga as well, because we don't have to transport the drive units and the battery pack and the chargers we can just make them right there. And the labor, just the cost of living is less in Nevada.
Sure.
So you can have the same standard of living for, less money in Nevada than in California, or especially the Bay Area. So fundamentally cost of living here is on the high side, so that's why it was a little counterintuitive. But and it's not a totally clear-cut decision, but we're optimizing for speed of execution, and on balance, it seemed like we could get things done faster if we did it in Fremont.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and part of it is like I was like skeptical at first, like where are we going to put this? You know, we had to put the
GA4
in a tent. It was a very nice tent. You know,
that's where my car was built.
Yeah. Exactly. It's not like a Cub Scout tent. It's a structural tent. But we've actually found there's some warehouse space we were using for warehousing parts in the main factory, and then we can sort of append things to the western side of the factory, the highway side of the factory, and kind of use that wall and just kind of add things on there. So there's sort of counterintuitive, but it does seem as though we have the room and we can do so without disrupting the Model 3 production or S Next production.
You've been having a lot of fun with software in the cars lately. We've seen the Tesla Atari game suite come around. You were talking on Twitter recently about your love of Portal and some of those games you'd like to see porting the Unreal Engine, Unity Engine, potentially into the cars. There's one other thing.
You have Unity working.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I sort of we have like a beach buggy driving game. What's it called? Dune buggy or something like that. Yeah. So that's pretty fun. And then Cuphead we've got working.
Really?
Yeah.
I know them. I know the developers in my day job. Yeah, I think they would be. Do they know that?
Yeah, they've been helping us make it work.
Yeah. Jared, the Moldenhauer family, they're wonderful.
Yeah, it's a cool game. It's crazy.
Great.
It's insanely difficult.
Yes, by design.
By design, yes.
Yeah.
It's sadistically difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
you
I think they admit that, actually.
You got to beat the devil. It's
it's twisted plot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Deal with the devil.
Dark.
Right. Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, it looks like some cute little Disney thing. You're like, this plot is very dark.
Yeah.
But it's we kind of have like Cuphead and Dune Buggy working on the thing. It was going to see a bunch of other games. We didn't anticipate having all these games there, so the storage space will be a trickier one. But so you just kind of like have to decide what game you want to play, and then it'll download it. And so if you want to play other games, you'll have to delete that one and load another one. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I was actually watching an old presentation of yours recently, the open house, the Fremont open house from 2011, before the car shipped. You were showing off the UI to the original group of Model S reservation holders. And in there...
8 years ago, damn.
Yeah, 8 years ago. And in there, you'll remember the original 1.0 of the Model S UI had a tab for apps. Ultimately, you never did anything with it. So I'm just sort of curious, you've been doing more with games, and we've seen so many amazing features just this year. I talk about it on my podcast all the time. Just in 2019 with Sentry Mode and all kinds of stuff. Is there any thought to maybe opening things up and having a curated app store like situation where people could write apps for the car as you had originally laid out?
Well, in order for it to be worthwhile for somebody to write an app, there has to be enough of an install base to warrant the effort. Even if you're going to port something, it's still got to be kind of worth the effort.
Yeah.
So as the number of vehicles grows, and you need to have a consistent platform as well. So as the number of vehicles grows, then it starts to potentially make more sense to develop games or other applications for Tesla. But we just need a lot of cars. Like if we have millions of cars, then it starts like, okay, that could kind of make sense.
Sure.
Especially since the center screen is an Intel platform, and it just runs Linux basically. So if you have something that runs Linux, Intel Linux, then it works on a touchscreen, then you don't have to do much work to port it. But I think this there's not much point in us putting a massive amount of effort into an app store until the number of vehicles is higher. So I think for now, what makes sense is to just work with a few cool games and app developers that kind of just went out of interest and curiosity, or just think it would be cool to kind of port their stuff. Like, there's no money in it right now. You can't compete with whatever, there's like 500 million iPhones or something,
right.
or a billion Android devices, or that's like, we're orders of magnitude away from that. So it's kind of, if you have something already and it's like pretty easy to port, then it might be fun to do that, and especially if they're driving the car, then it's kind of cool. So it's just like a few kind of demo apps that are kind of fun, especially if they increase the fun level in the car. That'd be cool.
Are you still working on getting Netflix and/or a YouTube portal into the cars for a future software version? You mentioned that as maybe a V10 thing.
Well, you could certainly. It would be pretty straightforward to allow access to Netflix, because you can just go through a browser.
Yeah.
Any kind of browser interface is going to work, because we've got Chrome running, or Chromium, I guess.
Chromium now, yeah.
Yeah. So the issue is the bandwidth consumed is going to be significant for video. So we can't afford to have, like, it would be tough for Tesla to pay for massive amounts of like, for people to watch a movie over a cell connection.
Yeah, racking up that bill with AT&T.
It would be an expensive movie. So if I think we could just enable it for, if you're connected to Wi-Fi or something like that, then it would certainly make video work real easy.
On that note, I see a lot in the community. The North American Tesla owners are jealous of their European counterparts because they have Slacker. Or pardon me, they have Spotify in their cars, and we have Slacker.
Why do you hate Slacker?
No. Don't shoot the messenger here.
Yeah.
Is there like a sort of a contractual thing with Slacker, then that's why there's no Spotify here, or is it just your preference? Or I guess got to ask that one on behalf of the community.
We just have a lot of fish to fry, and switching to Spotify in the US is just like not on the priority list relative to other things. Like, people can certainly still play Spotify through the Bluetooth connection on their from their phone.
Right.
So when we first did this, back in 2010, or we were in production in 2012.
Right.
It was kind of crazy to have like streaming audio in a car. Like, no car had that.
You could call up any song with voice activation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was like a crazy magic trick back in 2012. It's like only 7 years ago. So the idea of being able to play any artist or any song or any like comedy routine, Monty Python, whatever it is, and it'll just play it, was like kind of mind blowing in 2012. It's like obviously a lot less mind blowing in 2019. But that's so it's just we have a lot of fish to fry, and giving people the option of Spotify is, I guess, something we'll probably do down the road, but it's just not a high priority right now. Understandable,
and certainly the present, you've got a lot to solidify in the present day, and so sort of on the topic of priority, with the push for autonomy and the Tesla network due to come online in the near future, and your belief that people will call for the steering wheel to just get deleted at some point sooner rather than later. I'm sort of curious about how you think of you've talked a lot about Tesla has the most exciting product lineup in the world, and I, as a Tesla owner and enthusiast, certainly don't disagree.
From a product roadmap standpoint, I think it's hard. I'm hard pressed to think of what would be second or third. I think Tesla's got the best, like the most exciting product lineup by a long shot of any company that has publicly announced anything. So with that in mind, but with the autonomous future on the way that you guys are working so hard to deliver, is something like an even cheaper, more affordable, Model 4, quote unquote, like a compact sedan, is something like that even in the roadmap, or do you think autonomy will not even cause a need for that? Autonomy is for sure the priority. Just a car becomes dramatically more valuable when autonomous versus not. It probably increases. I think it increases in value by, maybe a factor of 5 or something crazy. Or just think of if you can earn $30,000 a year from a car, and say even a Model S, financing payment might be $1,000 a month, so that'd be $12,000. You could basically, make a pretty good return even on a Model S or a Model X.
I guess I'm sort of curious about the balance between autonomous future and the ultimate goal of the company of just electrifying the world and advancing sustainable transport. I've seen in my own office, 3 of my coworkers have bought standard range plus models because there's just an incredible difference between a $40,000 Tesla and a $50,000 Tesla.
Yes.
So I'm sort of, do you want to keep going further down the roadmap and drive even lower cost cars to market?
I mean, eventually, yes. It's not like we could make a $20,000 car and are just arbitrarily choosing not to because we hate people who buy $20,000 cars. We do not know how to make that.
Certainly, for now.
So, as I said in my the original sort of secret master plan, it's insanely difficult to make an electric car at a price price it at the same level as a gasoline car and have the same features and functionality.
Right.
Gasoline cars have had trillions of dollars, literally trillions, and 150 years to refine internal combustion engine technology. I mean, in the 70s, it wasn't even obviously you could start your car. You go to your car and it's turn the key, it doesn't always start. That's today that would be super weird.
Yeah.
But you have all these old movies where the motor is chasing you with an axe and will the car start or not is a plot device. Yeah. I don't know, it might start. But there's all these vast amounts of R&D and tremendous scale economies have gone into making gasoline cars low cost. It's nutty how little they cost given how complicated they are. So it just takes time for electric cars to get there, and you say how many versions have gasoline cars been through? 20? I don't know, a lot.
Yeah.
And we're basically on, from a Tesla standpoint, we're on version 3 of the technology.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean we had the Roadster, the SX platform, and the 3Y platform.
Yeah.
So it's just that's only just version 3 really. So but with autonomy, I think that makes the economics of buying a car dramatically different. You can get sort of a Model 3 lease. You can lease it $400 a month, maybe finance it for $450 or $500 a month. And say okay, so that's basically maybe a little over $100 a week. And how many rides would you have to have an autonomous car give to make $100 in a week? Very few.
Yeah.
If it just spent a few hours giving rides, you've made your lease payment. So for a few hours per week, and so. Then who can't afford that? As long as you're willing to let your car do rides, anyone can afford it, really.
Yeah.
And in fact, it would be a moneymaker. So, instead of you could be like an Uber or Lyft driver driving one car, or you could be manage a fleet of cars, and where each of those cars is earning money for you. And you could manage 10 cars or 20 cars or something. And that's just going to be way better. And then you're sort of more like a shepherd tending a flock type of thing. You're not the sheep. So that seems like a way better thing to do than to always be driving the car. And so I think that's definitely what people will choose to do, is just operate a small fleet, and take care of the cars when they get a flat tire or need some service or something like that. Need to be cleaned out or taken care of in some way. So you sort of manage your fleet, and then it's like a little business basically.
You've been so excited about the pickup truck. I feel like you just can't wait to show that thing off. You snuck in the teaser at the Model Y event that we all missed before you put it out on Twitter later.
It was way too subtle.
I heard the noise and turned and missed it at the event, and everybody was like, "What was that?" But from everything you've said, I mean, this thing sounds nuts, because you've mentioned on Twitter titanium components, some cool suspension stuff with the weight, your load in the bed. So is it reasonable to expect that the pickup truck at first will sort of follow a more S and X like trajectory, or it might start off a little higher cost before maybe making your way down market with it?
We don't want it to be really expensive. I think it's got to start at less than $50,000. It's got to be like $49,000 starting price max. And ideally less. Even 49.
I think you just made a lot of people really happy who are interested in the truck by saying that.
Yeah. It just can't be unaffordable. It's got to be something that's affordable. So now there'll be versions of the car that are more expensive, or truck that are more expensive, but you've got to be able to get a really great truck for $49,000 or less, and it's just got to have incredible functionality from a load carrying standpoint, look amazing, but it won't look like a normal truck. So it's going to look pretty sci-fi. That means it's not going to be for everyone. Like if somebody just wants to have a truck that just looks like trucks have looked for the last 20 years, then 30 years or 40 years, then this probably isn't for them.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a truck that is more capable than other trucks. Like it'll be a better truck than say an equivalent. The goal is be a better truck than an F-150 in terms of truck-like functionality, and be a better sports car than a standard 911. That's the aspiration.
I like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're willing to help the internet out right now, or if we're just going to have to wait for the proper reveal, but in that teaser image, which end of the truck was that?
The front.
Okay. People were convinced either way.
Sure.
I don't know if you followed any of the chatter, but it was people were like, "Is it the back? Is it the front?" Nobody was quite sure.
It's kind of a Blade Runner truck is the idea, but like I said, it's not going to be for everyone. For sure, when we unveil this thing, there'll be some number of people who are like, "Oh, that doesn't look like a truck. I don't want to buy it."
Yeah.
It's sure, okay, when they came out with automobiles, people were like, "Oh, I like a horse and carriage." Sure, okay, you can stick with your horse and carriage, but you're going to get an automobile later. They just don't know it.
The V3 superchargers got the beta sites up. Can you speak more about the rollout there? Are you aiming for more kind of rural road trip spots yet? First, rather, or what's sort of your thought process behind rolling those out?
Yeah, I think we'll focus on long distance routes. So if you're in a hurry to get from one city to another, you can go as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And then also we're replacing some of the version 1 superchargers. Some of the older superchargers will also take priority. So if you've got a V2 supercharger that's charging at 140, 145 kilowatts, and it's not full, so you're actually getting the full 140.
Right, you're not sharing it.
140 plus kilowatts. Yeah, that's pretty fast. So, but there's some out there where they're still at 75 kilowatts. So we'll replace those first. on long distance routes. So
has anybody, you've kind of touched on this here and there, have any other manufacturers come to you about the supercharger network, about getting on there? Because you've said you're open to the idea. I think JB's commented on that too. But to me, that's the electrification in the industry is great. But if I'm going to buy a Chevy Bolt or an I-Pace, like, cool, it's awesome around town, but I can't really go anywhere in it. So, right. Nobody seems to be investing, or not enough maybe investment in the network. I know there are a few out there,
right.
But are you fielding calls there or what?
Nobody's contacted me. So maybe they've contacted other people at the company and they haven't mentioned it to me, but none of the manufacturers have contacted me and said that they want to use it. Like we do require that the car be able to charge at a high rate, and then obviously share in the cost of the system, and probably we'll get some takers down the road, but they just don't seem to be that interested right now.
Is that a real challenge of the supercharger network of staying ahead of the rolling sort of wave of, you're putting out thousands of new cars every day and, easing congestion and trying to make sure that it's still a good usable experience? Yeah,
absolutely. We can't afford to build too far ahead of congestion because we don't have the money to do that.
Yeah.
So we, having a whole bunch of idle superchargers wouldn't be a great use of the company's money. So we try to stay ahead and make sure, as much as possible, anticipate the demand, and stay ahead of the ones that we expect to be highest demand, and then make sure that we're covering every route that somebody would want to take. So there's addressing congestion and freedom to travel. But in some cases we're a little slow because like a building permit doesn't come through or something like that. You can't just like expand these on instantly because there's a lot of, you have to get the utility and the building permits and everything to agree. So we built a lot of superchargers though. I mean, it's pretty nutty. You see that map in the lobby.
In the lobby, it's awesome.
It's crazy. It's like all over Europe, all over North America, all over China, Japan, Australia.
The Semi is the one vehicle I haven't touched on yet. How much of the business do you, not like from a percentage numbers thing, but I'm sort of curious, do you see that as like a potentially massive part of Tesla's business, or is it sort of a let's just see how this goes kind of thing?
No, I think the Semi will be a very big part of Tesla's business, as will the pickup truck. I mean, they're very important fundamental use cases. So I think like we've got to, at least have one, what we think is an amazing product in all of the key use cases. So, kind of full-size sedan, full-size SUV, mid-size sedan, mid-size SUV, pickup truck, and Semi for commercial trucking. These are very fundamental. But it only makes sense to add new products at volume if we have the battery cell capacity to support them. Otherwise, we're simply adding complexity, but we're not putting more vehicles on the road.
Right. You had to starve the energy side of the business last year, you said, to get the car batteries out there. Yeah,
we had to convert all of the battery cell lines for the Powerwall and Powerpack to make cells for Model 3. And even then, we were often starved of cells. So we want to make sure that doesn't occur again. And really, cell capacity will come online just in time for Model Y. Even if we had Model Y today, we couldn't actually make any additional cars because we do not have enough cells.
Well, I know my time is up here. I've taken plenty of it. Let me just say on mic, both personally and on behalf of anybody that listens to my podcast or everybody in the Tesla community, just thank you for your efforts to make these amazing cars that we all love and have a great time with and keep our families safe and pave the way for a better, brighter future. I really cannot thank you enough. I love my Model 3 and being part of the community that you and the company have fostered
Cool.
is just such a wonderful thing to be a part of. That's why I spend my nights and weekends making a podcast about it. I love it so much, and thank you for everything.
Oh, you're most welcome. I'm glad it is bringing you joy. This is, there's very few products out there that bring you joy. There's just very few. It's like, how many products out there can you buy that you really love? It's very rare.
Well, I end my podcast every week with something that you said on the Joe Rogan podcast, which is that a Tesla should be the most fun thing you ever buy. That's the last.
Yes.
That's the last words you hear on every episode of my podcast, because that just resonated with me.
That's our goal: is to make the car, have the car make you as happy as possible.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah.
Elon Musk, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it. I still almost can't believe that actually happened here. I'm recording this part 24 hours later. So the interview, as you heard me in the intro there, took place at Tesla's corporate headquarters in Palo Alto, California. And it took place on Wednesday, May 29th, 2019 at about 8 p.m. That's why you heard Elon at the beginning there, for context reference. Hey, it's the end of the day. He had to kind of reset his brain a little bit before getting into the interview. So it had been a long day for him. He was extremely gracious with his time, and just to do that at all. So I want to thank Elon Musk one more time. That was just so generous of him, and so kind to sit down with somebody from the community. And I'm humbled and grateful for the opportunity to get to do that. I interview people in my day job at IGN regularly. I interview game developers all the time, and I love that part of my job. It's actually my favorite part of my job. And getting to apply those skills, the interview skills and the passion I have for interviewing people, to Elon Musk after doing a podcast about Tesla every single week for the last almost 4 years now. It's just surreal. I'm just so humbled and grateful for the opportunity. I also want to thank Tesla's communications team and Elon's staff for a whole lot of emails and a whole lot of patience as we spent a lot of time, many months, trying to put that together, and it finally happened. So I'm so grateful to them. And most of all, I want to thank, two people, a group of people and a specific person. I want to thank CJ Gibson. He is a friend of mine and a video producer at IGN. He volunteered his evening to come with me and be my audio producer. This was going to be an audio podcast, no video, but CJ is just such an expert. He had my recorder that I'd bought a new recorder just for this. Make sure I had a better one than I used to have before when I used to do the show on a recorder a couple years ago. And CJ just took care of all of the AV stuff so that I could focus on the interview and not have to worry about any of the technical stuff. So CJ, I owe you. I owe you a debt of gratitude. Thank you so much for everything. And then the other big thanks, honestly, goes out to everybody listening to this. The people out there who have listened to Ride the Lightning, whether this is your first time or your 200th time, this would not have been possible without you guys. This podcast could have never grown into what it has become without your support, without the time that you so generously give to me by listening each and every week. This is just incredible. It's to have started this almost 4 years ago, just putting it out there and seeing what happens, because I was passionate about Tesla and the company and the products and the mission, to have now made it this far, to have had a hour-long sit-down with Elon Musk. It's just amazing. And again, I'm humbled by it. Thanks to all of you listening. And just a quick note before I go, if this is your first time listening to this podcast, hey, I invite you to stick around. New episodes publish every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, 6 a.m. Pacific. I'm happy to talk more next week about the build up to this and answer any questions that you might have about the interview or sort of the behind the scenes of it a little bit. But until then, I'll let you go now and let the interview speak for itself this week. Thank you all for this incredible 200th episode. Elon, the Tesla team, CJ, all of you out there. Happy electric motoring to all of you, and I'll see you next week.
I mean, I think a Tesla is the most fun thing you could possibly buy ever. That's what it's meant to be.
Well,
our goal is to make it's not exactly a car. It's actually a thing to maximize enjoyment. Make it maximum fun.